Hello, hello, hello. And guess what we have going on tonight? It is Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka night. It is Tuesday. I've been off the airways for 2 weeks, except for my podcast. So I am so excited to be back. And what better way to start than I don't always do the news, but we're going to talk about some things that have been in the news. So I'm really looking forward to doing this show with you. As you come in, just let me know how you are doing and how is your day. I know I can't believe it's July and July is over halfway over. I don't know about you all. I don't know what happened to this year. I feel like the year has just totally flown by. But the first thing I want to do is a little housekeeping. If you know anybody that needs this, please tag them. If you know anybody that needs this message, you can share, or if you think they'd enjoy it. Sharing is caring. The last thing is if you're watching it later, don't even worry about it. It is all, as they say, good, all good. And I would love for you to just put hashtag replay in the comments. Just stick it in there so I know you came. So I am your host, Dr. Ericka, Harvard-trained double board certified psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I can't talk today. I am extremely passionate about helping you be better, do better, and live better. I do that through my adult telepsychiatry, my books, including my latest book, Fix Your Fairy Tale, A Woman's Guide to a Great Life, Love, and Legacy, speaking, and my podcast, Better with Dr. Ericka. I do all this to help put you back in your life so that you can claim that life that you totally deserve. So you ready? So today I have something special for you. Today we're talking about mental health lessons from Naomi Osaka, Richard Sherman, and Sha'Carri Richardson. You might be like, wow, we talk about these folks. And who are these folks? So they're people that have been in the news. They are all elite athletes. Naomi Osaka is one of the best tennis players in the world. Richard Sherman is a phenomenal football player in the NFL that plays for the Seattle Seahawks. And then Sha'Carri Richardson is just this out of this world track athlete that had previously qualified for the Olympics. And what I would like to use is some real life examples that just inspire us and inspire you to get the information you need about mental health, because we all deserve good mental health. You deserve good mental health. And there are life lessons and inspiration everywhere. And one of the things I always remember when I wrote my first blog, it was called Healthy, Fit, and Fab. So that's, I feel like that would be a trivia question. And the inspiration behind that was taking inspiration from everyday life of how to live better. And ironically, I feel like everything has come full circle. So let's go ahead and get to it. Now, one of the myths they tell you is that mental health is kind of this luxury. Mental health is something that people that are rich are concerned with, that if you don't have much money and don't have resources, well, then you should be able to get by, or only certain people have mental health issues, or there's something wrong with if you have a mental health issue. And the key word in mental health is health. We don't give the same type of scrutiny to people with diabetes, to people with heart problems, people with asthma, someone that broke a leg, someone that cut their arm. So the thing that comes up a lot when we always talk about mental health is you hear people talk a lot about stigma, because there's so much stigma around mental health. And one of the things that is so harmful about the stigma is the stigma gets in the way of people being able to feel comfortable getting the information so that they can get the help they need or have the information that they would need to be able to feel better or to help their community or help their loved ones. The other thing is it gets in the way with people feeling comfortable actually seeking help, even if they feel like they need it, that they're afraid that they're going to be judged or something's going to happen with their insurance, or people will find out and start talking about them. Depending on your career, people can be afraid that they're going to lose their license. There are just a lot of things that get in the way of people feeling comfortable taking care of their mental health. So I want to just do a little quality time around that. We're going to use some practical things that have been happening in the news, because one of the things that's been popping up more and more is you're seeing people talk about their mental health, including these elite athletes, that people naturally, the myth is out there that they have it all going for them. They're healthy, they work out, they have these great lives, they look great, all this stuff. And just the same as you'll see with people that are wealthy, that you think they can have it all. And then you're like, how are you depressed? How are you considering taking your own life? How are you taking your own life? Is that mental health, just like any other area of health, is not specifically discriminate on your race, your gender, your job, your vocation, your health, your other health status, all those things that it can happen to anybody. So let's get started. So the first person we're going to talk about is Naomi Osaka. If you're not familiar with her, she is this wonderful tennis player. And one of the kind of fun facts about her is her background is Japanese and Haitian. But she is wonderful. She is so talented. And one of the reasons she popped in the news and was recently even on a Time cover was it started when she had ended up withdrawing from the French Open because she didn't feel comfortable doing press. And they were going to fine her. And it got to the point where she's just like, I'm done. And she discussed how she had a long history of anxiety, difficulties with depression, and felt like doing all of that press was not going to be healthy for her mental health. And she was making decisions to protect her mental health. So the lesson out of that is there is a beauty and a practicality and an effectiveness of actually prioritizing your mental health. Now, I realize there are a lot of you out there that are sitting there like, hey, I don't make millions of dollars. I can't just walk away from work. Number one, I think her situation stresses one of the reasons why it's important to work to have freedom, because to me, freedom means having choices. And that just adds years to your life, being able to have choices and to be able to leave unhealthy situations. And this can affect your life even in small ways. If there are people you go around, you know, they will not be healthy or that will be draining. Or if there are jobs or things you can do and you could do another job, but this particular work environment is really toxic. If there are toxic people, if there are things that you know that you have a habit of doing that aren't healthy for you or that stresses you out, that being able to make those choices to prioritize your mental health and to make those choices. Sometimes they're hard choices. It may be the difference between staying in a job that you feel like makes great money, but is abusive or racist or demeaning, versus maybe taking a job that makes a little less money, but is healthy. Being single versus potentially being in a destructive marriage. But there are numerous ways we make these small decisions every day of ways we're going to deal with our mental health and ways we're going to prioritize our mental health. And the point out of this particular scenario is that number one, working to set your life up so that you can have the freedom to feel comfortable making some of these choices, but also being able to have self-awareness and have those tough discussions with yourself around what is going to be healthy for you, and then coming up with a plan to try to get to that healthy place, and being able to say no when you need to say no so that you can protect and support your own mental health. The next person we're going to talk about is Richard Sherman. If you haven't heard about Richard Sherman, he's a wonderful NFL player out in Seattle with the Seattle Seahawks, and was recently arrested for domestic disturbance. And when his wife called 911, she had been talking about the fact that he had been drinking, his mood was unstable, and that he was threatening to kill himself. And what then happened is he ended up getting arrested and held without bail. You might be like, well, where's the lesson in that? There are a couple of things in there. So I'm not here today to assess anybody we're talking about their mental health or exactly, because I wasn't their doctor. So I don't know all the ins and outs. But the thing that to me was very important in this story was, number one, I'm in mental health. So I know how convoluted the mental health system is. It is not straightforward. It is not always easy to figure out how to get help if you identify that you or your loved one needs help. So the first lesson in it is the importance of being open to education, and for all of us in these fields and in the community to help educate people about understanding how these systems work, so that if you need to use them, you can maneuver through the system. Because unfortunately, it doesn't all make sense. It just doesn't. So, I think one of the lessons in this is when ideally someone would be able to recognize that they aren't feeling like themselves and they're having some difficulties, they're having impairments and not functioning as well. And then you would proceed to go see somebody. One of the other ways people come to treatment is they may not see it directly, other people see it. And then there are times where you have emergencies and you need some type of emergency intervention, be it hospital, emergency room, crisis phone call. But a lot of people don't know all of these different resources. They don't know phone numbers for local crisis lines, that the suicide hotline actually does something other than help just people with suicide, that they can help with people with crisis, that there are chat lines, that there are even veteran specific lines, that there are lines that help with domestic abuse and sexual assault, that there are all these resources, but people don't know how to navigate to them. So to me, one of the lessons is, number one, understanding these systems so that if you need them, you can navigate into them, ideally before there is a crisis. The next is being able to understand and have the information to know what should happen if there is a crisis, so that if things are not handled appropriately, you know what steps to take. The next is the importance it is of being able to have that education and those resources, so that if you have a loved one that's struggling, that you start having the language and having some assistance with strategies of how to support your loved one. That there are times where you may notice someone you love, a friend, a coworker, you may work in an agency where you work with other people, that someone is struggling. And a lot of times people don't know how to have those conversations. They don't know how to ask, how are you doing? Or how are you really doing? Or how to approach if they have concerns, if they're worried that someone may be thinking of taking their life, or someone's just not doing well and they're just worried. And there are a lot of, there are people you can follow on social media. Silence the Shame is excellent. Also me. But beyond that, there are a lot of resources out there, including NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Myself and some of my old business partners wrote a book called Mind Matters, a resource guide to psychiatry for Black communities, that literally breaks down almost everything with mental health, but with science, with regular everyday language, that I highly recommend. There are special considerations in there for people that are Black, but it can be used for anyone. But a lot of times having some knowledge and then having some information of how to have these conversations can help you be in a position to support the people you love. And to me, that was the travesty of the situation, that you could tell by even reading it that, his wife wanted to support him, his family wanted to support him, and things didn't go the way they would have hoped for him to get help, but also for things to turn around the way they wanted to at the time they wanted it to. So I think it's important for everyone to have some level of understanding, so that then you can advocate, because sometimes you're advocating for yourself and you want to be able to advocate for yourself when you need help. But also a lot of times as adults, you are advocating for other people. And it's important to have the information to be able to advocate appropriately. The last athlete we're going to mention today is Sha'Carri Richardson. She was really big in the news because she ran so well in the Olympic trials. Everybody was so excited about her. And then the news hit that she was not going to be able to run because she had a positive test for marijuana, which is a banned substance by the International Olympic Federation. And the lesson here, because you might be like, well, she used weed. And I want to take this beyond the entire discussion of whether or not cannabis should be allowed or have stiff penalties in the Olympics and in athletics. So I want to kind of pull away from that because that's an entirely different discussion. And given that I am not specifically an expert in Olympic level athlete rules and regulations, we aren't going to go there. But the thing that was very moving was that she did some interviews and discussed the fact that she ended up using weed as a coping strategy because she was overwhelmed with finding out that her mother had passed away while she was being interviewed from a reporter. And I realized that this is a situation a lot of us are not going to be in. A lot of you are not going to be in the situation where you find out that your mom died from a reporter. That's just regular people life. We aren't sitting up talking to reporters all the time. So you might be like, what's the lesson? Well, I already put it up here. So I realized you kind of know where we're going with this, is that it's important to have coping tools and to be able to ask for help. One of the things that made this situation so tragic is that she didn't have a full coping toolbox. She didn't have a full set of strategies or resources to emotionally support her and help her through dealing with her grief. So she ended up using substances to deal with her grief. And I've talked to people all the time. There are so many people self-medicating with weed or using weed to help with anxiety, grief, a wide variety of things, even some of my people that are depressed. And the thing here and what is important is being able to have these, I'm not going to say have these, but being able to be in a position that when something happens, that you have some options or things that you can pull from that are going to be healthier solutions. And I realized that one of the things is we have to be taught or environments where we learn these healthy solutions. And everyone's not necessarily going to a therapist. Everyone's not necessarily seeing a psychiatrist, because we also do therapy too. And it's important to have other ways of dealing with things. That you see a situation where a young woman who was aware of what the regulations were was so overcome by grief that that's the decision she made. And I want people to be in a position where you have skills and options so that when you're dealing with not only grief, stress, overwhelm, when you don't feel well, when you just don't feel right, when it feels like life is just coming down on you, or you just have so much work, there's no way you can do it, that you have a variety of healthy options that you can reach for to help you through it, or you know who you can call. Be it a situation where you're overwhelmed and you have a close friend, a family member, someone from church, a neighbor, aunt, uncle, parent that you call and confide in. Be it calling your therapist if you have one. Be it maybe making an appointment for a therapist, even if you don't have one, or if you just feel really overwhelmed and need to call a crisis line, to call a crisis line. But I think the lesson here is the importance of being able to identify healthy strategies that are not going to be destructive or disruptive. And the other thing is being able to ask for help and not necessarily feel like you have to manage all of this on your own. Because one of the things I see so often in my patients and my clients is people feel overwhelmed and they feel like they have to do it all on their own. And when then they go try to do it all on their own, then sometimes things don't go so well. So it's always better if you can have a little bit of help. Apparently my ring light has decided it wants to die. Let's see. Can we make it not die? No, it died. I feel like we're having all of the adventures. I feel like my camera's doing something wonky. I'm just happy that you all are hanging in here with me while I deal with all of the technical difficulties. But I just wanted to take a moment because I feel like there are so many places that we can all learn, places that you can learn, places I can teach, in a lot of the situations that are going on right now. So that's what I got for you today. I also want to remind you that my podcast is still out. I have a new episode that dropped today. It's called Truth Telling and Legacy Building. So Truth Telling and Legacy Building with Chuck Hobbs. It's an excellent episode. We also talk about Dr. Frederick Humphreys from FAMU, who unfortunately passed away. And so I highly recommend that. You can catch that at betterthepodcast.com, betterthepodcast.com. It's also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the places, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio. You can find it a lot of places, but I would love it if you check it out. And if you like it, please rate and review. That really is helpful to me. And also lets me know what you like so I can give you more of what you like. And that's what I got for you today. I hope it was helpful. Even if you didn't watch it live, just put hashtag replay and toss some comments in there for me. Thanks for bearing with me and all of my technical difficulties today, because, we had a few. And I will be back next week for Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka at 7 Eastern. I hope to see you then. And again, I'm your host, Dr. Ericka, Harvard-trained, double board certified psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I am extremely passionate about helping people be better, do better, and live better. I do that through my adult telepsychiatry practice, my books, my speaking, and my podcast, Better with Dr. Ericka. I do all of that to put you back in your life. So I look forward to hearing from you. As we said before, COVID is not over. So please continue to spread the love, get some love. Your usual prescription, call at least one person and tell them that you love them. I bet they'll tell it to you back. Until next time, have a better day.